Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your favorite casual basketball fan, Skinny Hardaway. Now that we're about 2 months away from the NBA season, I'll be doing a breakdown video of all the teams for the upcoming 2017-18 year. I'll go in alphabetical order by city and give a summary of last season, and also give some details and key points for them to focus on. I'll be breaking this up into parts so you won't have to listen or watch a video that's possibly over 30 minutes long. I wouldn't torture my loyal audience like that. First team on the list is the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks finished 43-39 and were the 5th seed in the East and lost in 6 games to the Washington Wizards in the first round of the postseason. The returning starters are Dennis Schroeder, Thabo Sefolosha, and Kent Bazemore. They were top 10 in opponents' points allowed and 4th in defensive rating. While they were a solid defense, they struggled offensively, only averaging 105 points per 100 possession, which was good for 27th or 3rd last from the NBA. The player I'm looking forward to seeing is rookie John Collins. They picked him up in the draft and he's about 6'10", 235. He's a high energy guy, has great hands, and he looks to understand and know where to be on pick and rolls. He loves to work in the post and shows good patience and a decent footwork down low. Him and Schroeder will probably complement each other very well. I can see the Hawks in the rebuilding stage, so I won't expect much from them this year, but the way the East is looking, I think they'll make the postseason, but probably won't finish higher than the 5th seed again. Up next is the Boston Celtics. They finished 53-29 last year and were the number 1 seed in the East. As we all might know, they lost in 5 games to the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were a middle-of-the-road team, being 8th in offensive rating and 13th in defensive rating. The returning starters from the team are Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Al Horford. They drafted very well by picking up Kadeem Allen, Jabari Bird, Semi Ojeleye, and Jason Tatum, one of the more offensive refined players out of the draft. Looks like Danny Ainge is making something work with his assets, something that most Boston fans have been begging for him to do since he robbed the Brooklyn Nets. They managed to pick up Gordon Hayward but lost their perimeter defender in the process, Avery Bradley. The player I'm looking forward to seeing is Gordon Hayward. He had Brad Stevens as a coach in college and now he'll be playing for him again. I'd like to see how he'll perform in Stevens' positionless basketball system and how effective he can be shooting the ball. The Celtics will be no worse than the top 3 team in the East. They might end up with the number 1 seed again if Cleveland doesn't decide to coast or has a horrible post-All-Star break again. Speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, they finished 20-62 and finished dead last in the NBA with the worst record. They could have had the number 1 overall pick, but they were still feeling the effects of the great heist that was pulled in 2013 with the Boston Celtics. Not much to talk about their season. I guess I'll just say that they'll definitely be better this year than last. The returning starters are Jeremy Lin, Karis LeVert, and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. They did acquire D'Angelo Russell and Timofey Mozgov from the Lakers this offseason in a trade. They picked up Alan Crabb's contract in a trade with the Blazers this summer, and it seems as if the Nets have been a dumping ground for large contracts for teams to make runs for free agents next summer. The player I'll be looking forward to seeing is D'Angelo Russell. He's going to be the guy on that team, and he's going to be their young leader. We might see career highs in Brooklyn due to the lack of talent, so if he touches 20 points a game next year, I would not be surprised. The Charlotte Hornets are a team I think that just hasn't lived up to the potential. I'm not sure if it's the players not wanting to be there or if Michael Jordan is just that bad at finding talent. They finished the season with a 36-46 record and were 11th in the Eastern Conference. The Hornets were another middle-of-the-road team, but they were projected to do better than what they did this season. They're returning all their starters from last year and have acquired Dwight Howard this postseason and signed Michael Carter-Williams to a 1-year deal. They drafted Malik Monk out of Kentucky, who I would like to see as a running mate with Kemba in the backcourt. The player I'm looking forward to seeing is Kemba Walker. He's one of my favorite guards to watch, and I want to see him take his game to all-star level. And considering how the East is looking talent-wise, if he goes out and produces, he'll be an all-star for sure this year. They have a lot of young guys on that team, so I won't hold them to high standards, but they could make the playoffs as an 8th seed. The Chicago Bulls look honestly confused in what they were doing this year. They had one foot in the let's rebuild what we have possibly, and the other in let's just tear it down and start from scratch. And it showed this year as they finished 500 and made the playoffs as an 8th seed just to get bounced in 6 games by the Celtics in the first round. They were a very good defensive team, ranking 6th in defensive rating and points allowed a game. They were the bottom 3 offensively and just couldn't get it right. It seems the unfit trio of Butler, Wade, and Rondo were doomed from the start. although they had shown promise in the postseason until Rondo's injury. They didn't make a huge splash in free agency or the draft, but they did trade Jimmy Butler to the Wolves for Zach LaVine, who is still out with a torn ACL in his knee. This team is very young, and their whole roster outside of Dwayne Wade and Robin Lopez has less than 5 years of experience. The player I'm looking forward to seeing is Chris Dunn. I think he has potential to be a serviceable point guard in the NBA, but just hasn't gotten a fair opportunity to showcase his talents. Hopefully a change of scenery and the system will help him out. I don't expect much for them this year. I'd assume that they'd probably be another lottery team. Possibly the most entertaining team of the offseason, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They finished 51-31 and, as you know, faced the Warriors in the finals and received a gentleman's sweep by hitting an NBA Finals record 24 three-pointers in a Game 4 win. During the season, they ranked as an elite offense, ranking in the top 3 in offensive rating and top 5 in points per game. But the downside was that they were in the bottom 3 of defense, which is very different from last year when they ranked top 5 in defense and were top 10 offense. The positive is that they ramrodded through the East during the playoffs, only losing one game going 12-1 into the NBA Finals. LeBron had one of his most productive postseasons of his career despite being 32 years old. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love played well in the East playoffs also, so I guess it wasn't a total failure. But this offseason has been nothing but drama that a C-list Hollywood movie would win an Oscar for if there were no other movies. Since the Cavs had no draft picks, they resorted to the offseason to retool the team, and they re-signed Kyle Korver for 3 more years and picked up Jeff Green and Jose Calderon on 1-year deals. They also signed Derrick Rose to a 1-year deal for $2.1 million. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, I'll leave a link to that video that I did. But they have one of the highest payrolls in the NBA, and there's nothing wrong in that because you have to pay to win at times, and they were in the finals. Regardless of what the notion some people might say, getting to the NBA Finals is a great thing for a franchise, especially a small market such as Cleveland. I'm not too sure on who's the player to watch considering they have 4 players who could have interesting storylines this year. We all know LeBron is undoubtedly the best player in the NBA, so there's no need to expound on him. Derrick Rose in the Cavs system/rotation will be interesting on how they use him, and the Kyrie storyline is overblown and outdated to me. I also did a video on that too, so you can go check that one out. So Kevin Love is the player I'm interested in seeing and how he progresses. This past season has been his most productive season since his last year in Minnesota. Now that the team looks to be at odds, I want to see how he'll step up, and I would like to see him go back to the post and give us glimpses of the T-Wolves Kevin Love. He's getting the ball as much as the other 2 guys on the team, and he has to stay healthy. People are going to be watching the Cavs this regular season, ready to fire off memes and jokes ridiculing them if they lose a game or have a shortcoming, and we'll watch Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless, coupled with Stephen A. and Max Kellerman, give these faux analysis about what's going on and if the Cavs will make it out the East. I personally don't expect the Cavs to be no worse than the Eastern Conference champs and be in the finals again. If they want to win it all though, they'll have to repeat the same formula from the 2015-16 season and postseason run. The Dallas Mavericks finished the season 33-49 and finished 11th in the Western Conference. They were a top 5 worst offense in the NBA, ranking dead last in points per game. They were second from last place in the NBA, so although they ranked 4th in points allowed per game, they played a slower brand of basketball, so reality, they were a middle-of-the-road team defensively, ranking 15th in defensive rating. Harrison Barnes had a solid season for them now that he takes over as the team's leader, and Dirk Nowitzki had a solid season at 38 years old. And I mean, he's a fan favorite. They re-signed him to a 2-year deal to end his career with the team, I'm assuming. They relatively have a young roster, which will be pretty good in the future. The Mavs didn't do as much this offseason, but I don't think it was needed. They're in rebuilding mode, and they have a solid core with Barnes, who's 24 years old and has championship experience. I'm going to be watching him to see how he performs. Nerlens Noel, who looks to be the next premier defensive anchor down low if they decide to re-sign him, and they have Seth Curry, who has looked to be comfortable in Dallas, averaging 13 points a game and shooting 43% from deep. In the draft, the Mavs got, in my eyes, a steal with Dennis Smith Jr. at the number 9 spot, who looks to be the most explosive guard in the draft. Almost a Derrick Rose/Russell Westbrook type. I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the court. I expect him to be in the lottery again, but they have a good upside with the young talent that they have. The Denver Nuggets are another young team who has shown promise to be something in the future if they can keep everything together. They finished 40-42 and were 9th in the Western Conference. Mike Malone seems to be successful working with young teams as it's only his 2nd year there, and they increased by 7 wins. They're returning most of their starters from the team last season and were a top 5 offense, but struggled on the defensive end, being in the bottom 5. And that's expected to work itself out, as they have 9 players who have 5 years or less experience in the NBA. They picked Donovan Mitchell out of Louisville but ended up sending him to Utah for Trey Lyles. Paul Millsap signed a 3-year deal with the Nuggets, so he'll bring a mature veteran presence to the team to help the young guys out, and will be a great compliment down low with Jokic. Speaking of the Joker, the player I'm definitely watching is Nikola Jokic. He has potential to be one of the best big men in the NBA and has an uncanny ability to pass out of the post and can run the break as well as the ball handler. Not to mention he is still on his rookie deal, so he has 1 guaranteed year left in a team option, which I'm assuming they'll pick up if he plays very well this year. So they'll get a bang for their buck and a glimpse of the future if they can reach the playoffs. I don't think they will due to the West looking to be the gauntlet, but if they can sneak into the 8th seed, you will see that they'll bring more fans in the games hopefully. They ranked last in attendance in the league. The Detroit Pistons finished 37-45 and was good enough for 10th in the Eastern Conference. They had somewhat of a disappointing season after giving the Cavs everything they had in the playoffs the previous year. At times it looked like they were either uninspired or that there was a power struggle between players and coach. They were a top 10 defense in the NBA, but as the issue with most teams that didn't win at least 50 games, they were bad offensively. They were bottom 5 in points per game and 24th in offensive rating. They did have bright spots this offseason by drafting Luke Kennard out of Duke, who I think will be a vital weapon for the Pistons scoring and shooting wise. He'll probably be coming off the bench to start, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting by the last few games of the season. They acquired Avery Bradley from the Celtics for Marcus Morris, so they added to an already good defense and will hopefully have Reggie Jackson for all of the season. The player I want to see is Andre Drummond. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure what him and Stan Van Gundy's relationship is, or if it's just Andre Drummond's mentality, but he seems to be disengaged to be their franchise player. He's very talented due to he averages a double-double for his career and averaged 17 points and 9 rebounds in his only postseason appearance. So I expect him to be better this year so they can get into the postseason. If they don't make it this year, then it's time for a change somewhere. I think they can finish somewhere between the 6th and 8th spots of the East. And now we arrive to your 2016-17 NBA champs, the Golden State Warriors. They finished 67-15, which was the best record in the Western Conference and the NBA. They were top 3 in both offense and defense, which shouldn't be a surprise. The acquisition of Kevin Durant proved to pay off hugely after going 7-3-9 last season and losing in the NBA Finals after leading 3-1 on the Cleveland Cavaliers. They made quick work of their opponents all year and ended with a 16-1 record in the postseason, the best postseason winning percentage in NBA history, just to add. They had a very eventful offseason by re-signing all their core players, Steph Curry, who signed the largest contract in NBA history as of now, Kevin Durant, who took a pay cut, Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston, who spearheaded the bench attack, and then rounded out with JaVale McGee, Zaza Pachulia, and David West. They acquired Omri Caspi's, and if you remember, he had a 3-point shootout against the Warriors a couple seasons ago, and one of my favorite players in Nick Young, who remains out there in California. They acquired Jordan Bell and Cash from the Bulls on draft night, who will be a good role player because he has a nose for rebounding. Trust me, I know this firsthand because his team knocked my school out of the NCAA tourney this past season because we couldn't keep him off the offensive boards. The player I'm going to be paying close attention to this season is Klay Thompson. He made it very clear that this past season he wasn't sacrificing anything when Kevin Durant joined the team, and he played well. Well, he really gave the same production from last year to this year, but he has 2 years left on his deal and he's a free agent. So I want to see how this year goes because it will give us an indication if he's out soon or not. The Western Conference has loaded up to take out Golden State, so I don't believe that they'll sweep through everyone like they did this past postseason, but I think they'll have a great chance to repeat as champs again. That's it for me, everyone. Thank you all for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up and click that subscribe button and the bell for notifications on my channel. This is Skinny Hardaway signing out.